Amnesty International recently launched the 2015 State of Human Rights reports. We're here to look at some of the key messages in this report. My guest is Mr. Lawrence Amesu, who is Director, Amnesty International Ghana. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning.
So this report, this is 2015. Is it from the beginning to the end of 2015?
Yes, it covers from January to December, and a little part of early 2016.
Okay.
This is an annual report. Amnesty International, one of our major responsibility or the work that we do is to investigate on human rights situation in countries. And in 2015, we investigated in 160 countries.
160 countries?
Yeah, 160 countries,
including Ghana.
Including Ghana. And on 24th of April, of February, that's last week, we launched this report in several countries, including Ghana.
Yeah. We're doing better, aren't we?
I would say generally, when you look at Ghana's human rights issues and compared with other countries, you may say that Ghana is doing better, but we still have some loopholes to. You
said, like, you know, we haven't done better than the previous year.
Yeah, we haven't done better. I think we are still not moving very fast as we expect. For example, in 2013, the Rapporteur General on torture came to Ghana and looked at some of our human rights issues, particularly concerning torture and ill treatments. When he came back last October, he still visited areas of detention and then visited the police, talked to civil society and journalists. And he came out to say that we still not doing well, but he said that we're doing better because attempts had been made to improve upon the situation in the prisons.
Sure.
However, there is still a lot more to do because there is still congestion. There's the sanitation problem in the cells in our cells are nothing to write about. He also identified that there has been torture in some of our cells. Yeah, like police beating people, particularly at the time of arrests, and those are the issues that he had made.
In Ghana, you're still not read your rights. Like when you're being arrested, sometimes you're not told why you're being arrested. You're just carried to the police station.
Well, I think that it's just because people are ignorant about what they should do when the police arrests. Perhaps me and you, when the police arrests, you will want to know why the police is arresting. And because of ignorance, police will take the opportunity to arrest people without telling them exactly what to do, why they were being arrested. And it is a form of psychological and emotional torments. Well, Ghana, I think our police are doing well. We will congratulate them for a lot of good work. But we still think that there's a room for improvement.
What's our worst performing area as a country?
I think our worst performing areas, we still have to improve upon discrimination against women and children, particularly women, because we still have our customs, our laws, our traditions, which discriminate against women. For example, issues such as the witchcraft issue is still in Ghana. In fact, efforts have been made by the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to close down the witches camps. I think it's only one that has been closed so far. We're still waiting for the rest of the 6 to be closed. Apart from that, we still have participation of women in social and political spheres, very limited. If we talk about our parliament, we talk about even in our schools. We still have houses reserved for boys are more than those reserved for girls. It's institutionalized discrimination against girls and women.
Who do you blame for the lack of women in politics?
Well, I think that we should not blame anybody in particular. I think the social structure has made it so, where from the very beginning, people or parents think that the place for women is in the kitchen, so there is no need to send the girl child to school. So right from beginning, parents contributed to it and society contributed to it, because we were not encouraging parents also to send their girl child to school. For now, we are all doing our best to encourage parents to send their girl children to school. And I believe that if the doors are open for education for girls, it will be automatic when such situations come, like a position for going into parliament or positions to go to ministerial positions. Women will be willing. I think it also needs encouragement for women, that they should know that they can do it. Women tend to think that when men are leaders, so they should go ahead and hold those positions. But I think that we should encourage women themselves to be confident, to say that yes, this position, what men can do, women can do better, so we can do it.
One of the key areas in your report is also terrorism and refugees, and then you say that the world has been shaken by the events that have happened. Is Ghana receiving refugees, you know?
Ghana's doors are always open for receiving refugees. In fact, in the past, Ghana opened its door for Liberian refugees, Sierra Leonean refugees, when other countries in the sub-region were not willing to accept them. At this time, there are not many refugees that are moving into Ghana.
Are Syrians coming here? Because that's one of the things that I think I recently
not many of them. Not many of them are coming. In fact, most of the Syrian refugees are tending to go into Europe rather than coming to Africa. Coming to Africa. So most of them, and that is one of the major issues that the report captures, that a lot of people are being internally and externally displaced. We have several refugees. In fact, the refugees, the report says that we have about 60 million people who are displaced
worldwide.
Worldwide, 60 million, which is about maybe about two or three times Ghana's population are displaced, and that is a major issue. Another major issue is armed conflicts, where armed groups are taking guns and then bullying civilians and killing people here and there, are major issues. But I think that one of the emphasis that we laid on government action is that governments are not taking action enough. In fact, many governments are even handling the situation with heavy-handed and against their own citizens. For example, when you take Burundi, because of elections, because the Nkurunziza, the president, wanted to go to the third time to be elected. And because of that, several civilians are being murdered. About 400 people have been killed just because of election in Burundi. And that is not only in Burundi, but also in DR Congo, in Guinea, very close to us here. Those atrocities are being committed against innocent civilians. What we also noted is that there is a shrinking space for human rights defenders. Journalists, lawyers are being arrested and detained and being killed because they are fighting for human rights. So we realize that the space for human rights work and space for journalists to speak out, the space for lawyers to be able to say, I'm fighting for the right of my clients, is being limited. and government are not taking action. So our report is saying that the government needs to take more action
but that peculiar situation, Ghana is not part of it, because the situation that exists in Ghana is very much different.
Well, I think that
lawyers are not being arrested.
No, in Ghana, we will not say that government is intentionally shrinking space for human rights defenders, including lawyers. But the report is actually talking about the whole world. We won't say, so we definitely say that, well, Ghana is improving in terms of addressing human rights issues, although we think that there are some few issues that we need to deal with. For example, the death penalty is still in our constitution. If Ghana is looked at as a leader in this sub-region in terms of human rights records, then the continuing existence of the death penalty in our constitution is a dent on our records.
It is only there on paper, but we don't practice.
We don't practice, yes, but once you still have it in your books, it means that you cherish it.
So a repeal of that?
Yes, a repeal of that will be very good. In fact, well, Ghana is also congratulated because the Constitutional Review Commission had recommended and the president had accepted. It's left with the public to decide now whether the death penalty must go or not. So, yeah, Ghana, we moving towards improving our record, but some gray areas are still there. We are happy that the government came out with a housing policy in March in 2015. However, people who are living in slums are still, their rights are still being violated because when it comes to a time for city authorities to let people go, we don't see them following the United Nations laid down procedures, and people tend to suffer a lot when those actions are taken. And that is an area that Ghana must have to look at critically.
Sure. I see that when you come to Ghana specific, you say, for instance, strengthening democracy and freedom of expression, vibrant discussion in parliament and media. Is it healthy?
Well, I would say that because for Amnesty International, we work in several countries all over the world. We also like to look at what is happening in individual countries. When you look at Ghana, the discussions that go on in public, how people are allowed to talk about political issue, talk about the president, it's very good, and it contributes a lot to democratic process. We do not see government deliberately to stifle discussions on political issue or social issues. So we think that at that area, I think there's vibrant discussions going on.
But some critics will say that there are other platforms that allow people to also insult. Sometimes the language that's being used, we say freedom of expression.
Yes, freedom of expression does not mean that we should use vulgar words, we should use insulting words. Sometimes, yes, people go beyond. It is important for the journalist media, when they are handling those issues, to know what to allow on the air.
But your concern is the fact that it's open, it's free, people can talk.
Well, not our concern. We are rather congratulating Ghana that is the discussions are open and people can speak freely. But we also saying that citizens should not use vulgar words, should not insult.
You mentioned Parliament as well. I'm curious.
Yes, we're saying that discussions in Parliament is quite vibrant because we don't say that government is suppressing the opposition, as we've seen in other countries where government use state apparatus to suppress opponents. We see that discussions in Parliament are quite vibrant as well.
Okay, but that does not necessarily translate into policy formulation, because the majority will still have its way.
Well, I think that policy formulation will also depend on the manifesto of each of the parties. Once the opponent is pushing for better living conditions for the citizens, government has that responsibility to ensure that life for individuals have improved. However, if government is shirking its responsibilities, it is the responsibility of the opposition also to push for government to come out with policies that will improve upon the lives of individuals.
Sure.
And I think that generally Ghana is also doing quite well in that area as well.
This is an election year.
This is an election year, very important for us. In fact, last year, when you look at our reports, it says that in Africa, about 15 countries went into elections. Most of them had problems, from Burundi to Guinea to DR Congo. All
Recently,
of them.
Uganda.
Uganda and even our neighbor Togo, Burkina Faso, all of these countries had a lot of problems where civilians lost their lives, government using the state apparatus to kill citizens. For Ghana, this is an election year and it is an important year for us. For Amnesty International, we want to encourage Ghanaians to take examples from other countries that have gone into election with conflicts and what has happened in those countries. We will encourage Ghana to remain very peaceful and come out with another successful election.
Are there areas that you would say the country should focus on?
Yes, I think that how police manage mob or crowd situation is very important during election period. That is why we were worried when we saw some of the situations where, for example, recently the two Benny brothers were killed when they were on a motorbike, leaving the scene, and they were shot from behind. These are things that we have to be worried about, because definitely we will have crowd during the election period, and how police manage it is very important, and that's the area that we want to make put emphasis on, that police continue to be very professional as they are. We want to congratulate them for doing a lot of good work, but they need to improve upon managing crowd and mob situation, because losing one life just because of an election is too many to accept.
So, you know, you have this fine report that you put together. You highlight all these issues. You say kudos to the areas that you can say. But really, what is it supposed to do?
Well, that is very important for the general population of the world to know what is happening in the world.
Are you not highlighting our weaknesses in your report?
No, for human rights, there is nothing like a weakness. It is important that every individual, where you find yourself, you should enjoy all the rights that you have as a human being. And so if there's any area that we think that is being violated or abused, those are the areas that we need to focus on, so that people know that, okay, these are the areas that we need some improvement. That is why sometimes our reports seem to be looking at weak areas rather than positive areas. It is important that we know that as a human being, you need to enjoy all your rights. There is nothing like this one you can enjoy, this one you can enjoy. So if any part of your right is being abused or violated, we need to draw your attention to it.
But with your practice, do you see that governments care about the reports that you put out?
We think that governments do care. I think as human beings, no government will want to be shown as the one that is violating the rights of their citizens. Many governments will pay attention. We also know that some governments will not. There are some recalcitrant ones that do not care about what happened. For example, what is happening in Syria, what is happening in Burundi. Those and in our neighbors, the Gambia, they don't care much.
Well, I would say when we talk about the Syrian situation, I say, have we learned any lessons from Libya?
Well, I think we've learned lessons, but human beings as greedy animals, people think that sticking to power, it's the best. It doesn't matter who dies, whose human right has been trampled on. Once I get what I want, that is fine.
But to critics of the Syrian government,
yes,
do we know what will happen if they are not there? And I say that still talking about Libya, because sometimes we talk about human rights, but people will say
there's no
people also deserve some of the leaders that they get.
No,
sometimes
I don't think we should go that way. There is no individual who has its all. Nobody can say that I am the best. I am the only one who can handle the situation. It is better to have a democratic process to identify leaders who will manage situations.
Look at Libya. Look at Libya. Is it better now or then?
It is worse than then because of the way it was handled. If it were a very democratic way of changing government, we won't say that if Gaddafi were there, it would still be better. Whereas we could have gotten somebody who would do the job better. But because of the way it was done, that was why we're having this problem. It is important for us to go through democratic process to change government rather than forcibly taking somebody's life or changing government through the barrel of gun. And that is what has caused Libya situation, and that is the same thing that is happening in Syria. And we are not encouraging people to perpetuate their governance. They are still in government. But we are also saying that it is not proper to take guns to force somebody out of power. That is what has caused Libya, and that is what is causing Syria.
Do we care about what is happening in Uganda, where there's been an election? The opposition leader wants to contest, but I mean, he's been arrested like how many times after the elections?
We are very concerned about that.
But we sit and we just watch, and then we write about it. Is that it?
Yeah, well, I think this is one of the things that our reports highlighted, that governments are not taking action, and then the institutions that have been put in place, for example, the United Nations, are not taking the actions at the right time, and they are not taking bold actions to be able to say, this is what we are set up to do, and we are taking action, and governments have to. And the governments are also not respecting institutions that we have put in place to help us protect human rights, and that is what is causing all these issues.
I see that you have some figures that you wanted to share with us.
Yes, our viewers can see some of the issues that we talk about. In fact, during the year, we had at least 113 countries which arbitrarily restricted freedom of expression, and more than 60 million people were displaced from homes worldwide, and 30 or more countries illegally forced refugees to return to countries where they would be in danger. For the refugees who are moving from Syria, for example, we should open our doors. Every country should open its door to receive refugees.
Should Ghana receive Syrian refugees?
If they do come here, we will encourage Ghana to open its door, provided that the economy and the political system, the social system can
But as it is now,
yes,
are we in the position
I
to?
will want to say that when somebody is in distress, in a problem, it is a global village that we are in, and Ghana is a part of the global
But shouldn't
village.
you check your own conditions?
Check our own conditions.
Yeah.
You should look at your condition.
Check your situation.
But it is also important for you to also contribute to the world efforts to support people who are in very big distress. Like
so we should
Syria.
open our doors to them.
If people come, we should, and every country should be ready to accept.
Does Amnesty have a position on these two ex-Gitmo detainees that were brought into Ghana?
Yeah, not position on Ghana per se, but our position on Guantanamo is that
you wanted to close down?
Yes, it should be closed down.
But where do the people go?
Because the people who were arrested almost 15 years, 14 years ago have not been tried at any courts, and they should be released. Well, Ghana is part of the global world. Ghana is part of the United Nations. So if the world is in trouble, Ghana should contribute. So the Ghana accepting the two Gitmo guys, it is the responsibility of the government to do due diligence. And for us, we think that the government must have done a due diligence. That is why it's accepted. And we will want to congratulate Ghana for taking that bold step to accept those two.
Irrespective
people.
of the criticism that has come.
Well, I think definitely in any society, there will be such criticism, particularly when people think that people who are being brought to the country are terrorists. It is unfortunate that we did not get a lot of education. The public did not get a lot of education on the Gitmo situation. If the public were well informed ahead before they were brought in, those criticisms would not have arisen. I think that people were taken unawares. They did not know what was going on, and that was why most of the criticisms are coming.
Very interesting question. Perhaps that will be the final one. It's from Mark Jemebi in Jessica, and says, Mama, we ask him, is democracy good for Africa?
Yes, democracy is good for Africa. In fact, we cannot say that democracy is new to Africa. We have had democracy a long time before the white man came. We have our own systems of governance, which is very democratic. So yes, democracy is good for Ghana. It depends upon how we handle the situation. So yes, we cannot say that we should go for autocracy or those kind of one person ruling for forever. Democracy is very important, and it is not new to Africa at all.
All right, we have to end our conversation, but do you give copies of your report to governments?
Yes, in fact, we invited government representatives. For example, the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. They were represented, and the police, the IGP sent a representative. The president officers were there. The diplomatic corps and other institutions, so we were able to give copies. I'll bring you a copy later.
But as to whether or not we work with the details in the report,
I will want to encourage everybody, once you get the report, to read it and to see which areas we are still not working well, we are not improving our human rights, and see what we can all contribute. What we are telling the Secretary General of United Nations is that in his last year, he should ensure that he puts a lot of systems in place to ensure that human rights are protected forever, and also to ensure that the one that is coming to take over will come and address human rights issues very strongly than we have it at now.
I'm grateful for your time. I enjoy talking to you anytime, so I'm grateful that you could make it. Mr. Lawrence Amesu is Director, Amnesty International Ghana. These facts, I don't know, at least 113 countries arbitrarily restricted freedom of expression and the press. 30 or more countries illegally forced refugees to return to countries where they would be in danger. More than 60 million people were displaced from their homes worldwide. Many had been displaced for several years or longer. And armed groups committed human rights abuses in at least 36 countries. When you look at Ghana and you wake up every morning and you pray to God, thank God that you live in Ghana. Stay with us. We've got AM Talk coming up next.